And now your Idaho real estate news.
When you hear the term broker, what comes to mind? What are the different types of real estate brokers in Idaho? This is Mike Johnston, contributing editor for Idaho Real Estate News. Let's review Idaho Code 54-2004, the definitions, to see how the different types of brokers are defined and what some of these duties are. Associate broker. Paragraph 4, quote, associate broker means an individual who is qualified personally as a real estate broker in Idaho under this chapter, but is licensed under, associated with, and represents a designated broker in the performance of any act described in subsection 39 of this section, end quote. So in a real estate office, there may be several real estate agents who have taken the additional education and have a broker's license. Each office has only one designated broker for the office, and all other brokers affiliated with that office are associate brokers. These individuals may, at some point, be the designated broker in the future. There are approximately 2,408 licensees that are associate brokers in Idaho. Limited broker. Paragraph 30, quote, limited broker means a broker individually qualified to do business in Idaho, but who may not have associate brokers or salespersons licensed with that broker, end quote. This broker can be the designated broker for an office, but may not have any other licensees working for them. There are approximately 2 licensees that are limited brokers in Idaho. Out-of-state broker. Paragraph 33, quote, out-of-state broker means a person who holds the equivalent of an active Idaho designated broker license in another jurisdiction, who is not licensed as a real estate broker under this chapter, end quote. Real estate broker. Paragraph 39, quote, real estate broker means and includes A, any person other than a real estate salesperson who directly or indirectly, while acting for another for compensation or a promise or an expectation thereof, engages in any of the following: sells, lists, buys, or negotiates, or offers to sell, list, buy, or negotiate the purchase, sale, option, or exchange of real estate, or any interest therein, or business opportunity or interest therein for others. B, an actively licensed broker, while directly or indirectly acting on the broker's own behalf. C, any person who represents to the public that the person is engaged in any of the activities in this subsection. D, any person who directly or indirectly engages in, directs, or takes any part in the procuring of prospects or in the negotiating or closing of any transaction which does or is calculated to result in any of the acts in this subsection. E, a dealer in options as defined in this section, end quote. Responsible broker. We covered that in depth last week. Paragraph 44, quote, responsible broker means the designated broker in the regulated real estate transaction, who is responsible for the accounting and transaction files for the transaction in the manner described in section 54-2048 Idaho Code, end quote. The responsible broker is responsible to the Idaho Real Estate Commission for the transaction, meaning the transaction records, oversees any entrusted funds, and for the closing of the transaction. There are approximately 1,161 licensees that are designated brokers in Idaho and would qualify as being able to be the responsible broker in a transaction. Managing associate broker. This category is kept to keep track of our branch office managers. A branch office is defined as, paragraph 5, quote, branch office means an office opened by a licensed real estate broker or licensed legal business entity, separate and apart from the main office. A branch office may be licensed or unlicensed in accordance with this chapter, end quote. A managing associate broker is an individual who holds a broker's license and manages a branch office, a branch office manager. They are still responsible to the designated broker. In Idaho, there are 16 managing associate brokers. And finally, the designated broker. Designated broker, paragraph 31, quote, designated broker means an individual who is licensed as a real estate broker in Idaho and who is designated by the brokerage company to be responsible for the supervision of the brokerage company and the activities of any associated licensees in accordance with this chapter. Also defined in Idaho Code 54-2083, paragraph 9, definitions, end quote. So, what is the designated broker responsible for? Paragraph 54-2038, designated broker, general responsibilities, and broker price opinions states, quote, the requirement that each brokerage company be maintained and conducted in compliance with the Idaho Real Estate License Law and the Idaho Real Estate Brokerage Representation Act is the responsibility of its designated broker. The designated broker is responsible for the actions of its licensees and associated unlicensed persons performed within the course and scope of their employment or agency, regardless of the location of the company's business or where representation is conducted. Paragraph 1, a designated broker is required to A, supervise and control in the manner required by law and rule all office locations and the activities of all licensees and unlicensed persons associated with that brokerage company or for whom that designated broker is responsible. B, review and approve all real estate agreements, including but not limited to those related to listing, selling, or purchasing property and brokerage representation agreements. C, be reasonably available to manage and supervise the brokerage company during regular business hours and will maintain adequate, reasonable, and regular contact with sales associates engaged in real estate transactions so as to prevent or curtail practices by a licensee that would violate any provisions of this chapter. And D, be reasonably available to the public during business hours in order to discuss or resolve complaints and disputes that arising during the course of real estate transactions in which the designated broker or his associate is involved. Number 2, a broker who is otherwise qualified to do business in Idaho but is not able to manage and supervise according to this section may be licensed as a limited broker in Idaho and shall not have any sales associates licensed under that broker. Paragraph 3, an actively licensed salesperson or broker may, in the ordinary course of business, give an opinion of the price of real estate for the purpose of prospective listing or sale. Only an active licensed broker or associate broker may prepare and render a broker's price opinion as defined in this chapter. An associate broker who prepares and renders a broker price opinion shall notify the designated broker, and the associate broker may not accept any fee except through the designated broker. Any licensee who renders a price opinion that does not comply with this subsection or with the requirements of section 54-4105 Idaho Code is subject to discipline by the commission. Paragraph 4, a designated broker shall not allow any person who is not properly licensed to represent that broker as a sales associate or otherwise in any real estate business activity requiring a real estate license. Properly licensed means a licensee or a change in license that has been made effective by the commission, end quote. I kept the broker's price opinion verbiage there because many agents are performing them when they should not, but that is a topic for a whole different week. The designated broker is responsible for everything that is going on in his or her brokerage. Simply put, if any of the licensees affiliated with that broker does something, it is as if the broker did it. If an unlicensed person affiliated with the brokerage does something, it is as if the broker did it too. The designated broker is ultimately responsible for everything that anyone does that is connected or working for or on behalf of the brokerage. There are 1,162 designated brokers in Idaho. Going on, paragraph Idaho Code 54-2039, broker and branch manager. Quote, paragraph 1. Each real estate brokerage company must have a legally qualified individual acting as designated broker at all times. Each branch office licensed under Section 54-2016, paragraph 4, Idaho Code, shall have at all times a legally qualified individual acting as branch manager. 2. Change of broker in business entity. A license issued to a legal business entity as defined in this chapter is effective only as long as the individual designated broker's license is in active status and in effect. If the individual so designated has a license refused, revoked, suspended, or otherwise made inactive by the commission, or if the individual designated broker voluntarily surrenders the individual license or ceases to be connected with the entity in the manner required in this chapter, the business entity shall have 10 business days in which to designate another qualified individual as designated broker. Before the entity's license is terminated and the licensees of all associated licensees are made inactive. 3. Effective date of changes. No change in designated broker shall be effective until written notice is received and approved by the commission in the form required. 4. Failure to comply. Original broker to remain responsible except in the case of revocation where a licensed brokerage company fails to comply with this section and its office is closed, or during any period where the designated broker has left the brokerage company and no new broker has been designated to act for the company. The original designated broker shall remain responsible for trust account funds, pending transactions, and records in the manner described in sections 51-2041 through 54-2049 Idaho Code. However, if the license of the original designated broker of the brokerage company is revoked, the license of that brokerage company shall be made inactive and its office closed until the company designates another qualified individual to act as broker, end quote. The last thing about brokers would be if someone was acting as a broker without actually having a broker's license. Same thing for someone acting as a licensee. What could happen to them? Section 54-2065, penalty for acting as a broker or salesperson without a license says, quote, any person acting as a real estate broker or real estate salesperson within the meaning of this chapter without a license as hereby provided shall be guilty of a misdemeanor and, upon conviction thereof, if a natural person, be punished by a fine not to exceed $5,000 or by imprisonment in the county jail for a term not to exceed 1 year, or by both such fine and imprisonment in the discretion of the court, or if a limited liability company or corporation, by a fine not to exceed $10,000. Additionally, the court may assess a civil penalty against a natural person in an amount not to exceed $5,000 and against a limited liability company or corporation in the amount not to exceed $10,000. All civil penalties shall be credited to the special real estate fund, end quote. So far, I haven't seen someone spend up to a year in jail, but it could happen. Well, I think we learned a lot about brokers and the different types in Idaho. When in doubt, reach out to your broker and ask them for assistance about the different kinds of brokers in Idaho. This has been another segment of Idaho Real Estate News. If you found this article useful, please share it with others. Subscribe by adding us to your Alexa Flash briefing or by sending us an email to johnston@micro.com. That's johnston@mykro.com. We have a website with all of our past topics that have been discussed. Visit the website IREN.news for more information. There you can also submit topics you would like us to cover. We are available for you to subscribe and listen to us as a podcast. You can find us on many of your favorite places where you subscribe to other podcasts. Search for Idaho Real Estate News. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insights on forms and other real estate topics. For Idaho Real Estate News, I'm Mike Johnston.
Idaho real estate news is updated weekly.